chosen one, stop what you are doing. Wherever you are right now, in your car, in your kitchen, in your bed, at the end of a long day, I need you to give the next few minutes your full attention. Because something has happened in the spirit over your household, and the only reason this message has reached your screen at this exact hour is because heaven is interrupting an assignment that was set against your family before you ever knew it existed. There has been a plot, not a small one, not a quiet inconvenience. A coordinated, layered, multi-generational plot designed to break what God has been building inside your bloodline. And tonight the Lord wants you to hear this word clearly. The plot has been cancelled, not delayed, not paused. Cancelled by the voice of the one who sees what no human eye can see. This is not a metaphor. This is not poetic language. This is the truth your spirit has been carrying without being able to name it. The strange tension in your home that comes and goes without explanation. The arguments that ignite over nothing and burn longer than they should. The sickness that keeps moving from one family member to another in a pattern that does not feel natural. The financial pressure that arrives just as a breakthrough begins to form. The way certain relatives have grown distant without an event that caused it. The way your children, or your siblings, or your parents seem to be carrying weights they cannot articulate. All of it has a source. And tonight God is uncovering the source so he can dismantle it. Hear me clearly. The enemy never wastes assignments on families going nowhere. He sends coordinated attacks where coordinated destinies are forming. The very fact that your household has felt the pressure is the very evidence that your household carries something he is afraid of. There is a calling on your bloodline that he has been trying to abort before it matures. There is an inheritance forming in the spirit that he wanted intercepted before it reached the next generation. There is but he tried to scribble out in the records of the earth. But heaven has the final pen, and the final pen has just struck through every line he wrote. Listen to me carefully. The plot was real. The plot is not imagination. The plot is not the anxious mind of someone overthinking. The plot was built quietly, sometimes through people who did not even know they were being used. Sometimes through words spoken in casual conversation that carried more weight than the speakers understood. Sometimes through unforgiveness that was passed down like a family heirloom no one wanted but everyone kept holding. Sometimes through agreements made by ancestors who had no idea they were giving the enemy legal ground over their descendants. The plot has been working for a long time. But tonight the plot meets a wall that no scheme has ever been able to climb. The blood of Jesus speaking over your household. If your spirit is already trembling with recognition, do something for me right now. Go to the comments and write, "My family is covered by the blood of Jesus tonight." Just type those words. Let your hands declare what your spirit is hearing. Because the moment you speak that, you are stepping into a covering that has been waiting for your agreement. Heaven moves on agreement. And your declaration tonight is the legal entry point for an angelic response that has been authorized but waiting for your voice. Now lean in, because what I am about to show you in the Word will explain everything you have been feeling. There was a time in the history of God's people when a king named Haman, sitting in a position of power he did not deserve, devised a plot against an entire bloodline. He did not target one person. He targeted a people. He drew up an edict. He stamped it with the king's ring. He set a date for the destruction. And the law went out across the provinces with the kind of finality that human eyes could not appeal. The Jewish people did not know the morning they woke up that their names had been written into a death warrant the night before. They went about their lives. They tended their homes. They raised their children. They had no idea that in a palace many miles away, ink had been pressed against parchment with their bloodline written underneath. But heaven was not asleep. Heaven had already, years before the plot was conceived, placed a young woman named Esther inside the very palace where the plot was forming. She did not know why she was there. She did not understand the weight of her position. She had been chosen for what she thought was personal favor, but heaven had positioned her for collective deliverance. And when the plot reached its peak, when the edict had been signed and the gallows had been built, and Haman was so confident in his scheme that he could not sleep at night for excitement, God moved. Not loudly, not with thunder. He moved through one sleepless night, one forgotten record being read aloud, one queen daring to walk into a throne room uninvited, one quiet shift in the heart of a king. And in a matter of days, the plot did not just fail. The plot was reversed. The gallows built for Mordecai became the gallows that held Haman. The edict written for destruction was answered by an edict written for defense. The very weapon designed to wipe out a people became the testimony that established that people for generations. Stop and let that land in your chest. The plot against your family is operating under the same playbook. The enemy thought he was building something behind the scenes. He thought he was working in territory God could not see. He thought the patterns in your bloodline were too established to break. He thought the dysfunction in your household had become identity. But God has been positioning something inside your family that the enemy did not calculate. There is an Esther in your bloodline. There may be more than one. There is a Mordecai praying with sackcloth no one can see. There is a quiet intercessor in your family that heaven has been preparing for exactly this hour. And the cancellation of the plot has now been signed in the courts of heaven. This is one of the truths C.S. Lewis once touched in his writings about evil. He observed that evil cannot create, it can only spoil. Everything dark that has ever attempted to harm anything good has had to borrow its materials from something God made first. Lewis understood that no plot against a family carries its own power. It must steal power from somewhere, from generational wounds, from unconfessed bitterness, from silent agreements, from places where someone gave the enemy permission long ago without knowing they were doing it. And when that borrowed power is exposed and revoked, the plot collapses on itself because it never had its own legs to stand on. Tonight, God is revoking the borrowed power. Tonight, God is closing the doors that were left cracked open in earlier generations. Tonight, God is auditing the spiritual ledger of your household and erasing the entries that the enemy used to argue his case. You are about to notice changes in your home that you will not be able to explain in natural terms. A relative who has been hardened for years will soften without warning. A child who has been pulled into something dangerous will suddenly find that door closing in front of them. A conversation that should have escalated into another long argument will quietly diffuse. A financial crack that you have been watching grow for months will mysteriously hold instead of widening. Pay attention to these things. Do not dismiss them as coincidence. They are the visible signs of an invisible cancellation. Heaven is not announcing what it is doing. Heaven is just doing it. And by the time the enemy realizes the ground has shifted, he will already be standing on the outside of a household he used to think he owned. Some of you have been carrying a fear for your family that goes deeper than current events. It is a fear that does not feel like your own. It feels older than you. It feels like something inherited. You have prayed about it, and the fear keeps coming back. You have tried to talk yourself out of it, and the fear keeps returning. There is a reason. What you have been feeling is not your fear. It is the residue of an assignment that was placed on your bloodline before you were born, and it has been trying to find a host in every generation. Tonight that residue is being washed off. The Lord is breaking the inheritance of fear that was never supposed to be passed down to you. You will not be the one who hands it to your children. You will not be the one who continues the pattern. The cycle stops at you. The Father has chosen you to be the bridge between the old story and the new one, and He does not call bridges to fail. If this is touching something tender in you, take a moment right now to like this video so the algorithm can carry this warning to the next chosen one whose family is under the same hidden attack. Share it with one relative whose spirit might be open to hearing it tonight. And if you have not yet subscribed, subscribe now, because the season we are walking into is going to require messages like this one delivered on time, and missing one of them could mean missing a piece of clarity that your household needs. Now let me show you something else from the Word that will lift the weight off your shoulders. There was a man named Jacob, the patriarch whose name eventually became Israel, and Jacob had a brother named Esau who carried a wound against him for 20 years. Esau had built up his strength. Esau had gathered 400 men. Esau was marching toward Jacob with the kind of fury that does not negotiate. And Jacob, knowing what was approaching, did something most people miss when they read the story. He sent gifts ahead of him, yes. He divided his family for safety, yes. But before any of that, he wrestled. Through the entire night, in a place called Peniel, Jacob held on to a man whose face he could not fully see, and refused to let go until that man blessed him. When the morning came, Jacob limped out of the encounter with a new name and a transformed identity. And when he finally met Esau on the road, the brother he had been preparing to flee from ran toward him, embraced him, wept with him, and the plot Jacob had been bracing for never came to pass. Chosen one, that is the picture of what has happened in the unseen realm over your family. There has been a wrestling on your behalf. There has been an intercession you did not see. There has been a hand laid on your household by the one who does not lose. And when the morning breaks on this season, you are going to find that the confrontation you have been bracing for will not look like what you feared. The relative you thought would never speak to you again will speak. The conflict you thought would split the family permanently will somehow soften. The reckoning you thought was coming for your name will arrive as restoration instead, because Jacob's wrestling was never about defeating Esau. It was about being transformed before Esau arrived. And God has been transforming you in the wrestling so that when the meeting comes, you will not need to fight. You will only need to receive. There is also a deeper layer to what is happening. Some of the plot against your family was not built by outside enemies. Some of it was built by inside agreements. There may be people in your bloodline who, in moments of pain, said things over your family that they did not realize had weight. A grandparent who, in a season of grief, declared poverty over the family as if it were destiny. A parent who, in a moment of disappointment, spoke a sentence over a child that the spirit realm filed as a vow. An aunt who, in jealousy, prayed something subtle that the heavens recorded, even though the words sounded ordinary. These small declarations, repeated across generations, can build a structure in the spirit that begins to function like a ceiling over a household. Nobody knows where the ceiling came from. Nobody can name when it was installed. But everybody can feel it pressing down. The Lord is dismantling that ceiling tonight. He is undoing the architecture of words that should never have been spoken over your family. He is releasing your household from agreements your ancestors made without understanding the weight of what they were saying. He is sweeping the legal ground of your bloodline and removing every clause the enemy has used to keep the plot active. This is the part that should make you exhale. You do not have to figure out every word that was ever spoken. You do not have to investigate every generation. You do not have to know exactly where the wound was opened. You only have to agree with what the Father is doing tonight. Your agreement is the seal. Your agreement is the signature. Your agreement is the legal placement of the cross over the doorpost of your household, the way blood was once placed over the doorposts in Egypt, the way death passed over those who were marked by what God provided. And here is what is being marked tonight. Your front door, the room where your children sleep, the chair where your spouse sits, the space where your aging parent rests, the screen where your sibling reads messages they should not have been sent, the road where your nephew drives, the classroom where your niece is learning, the job where your cousin has been pressed beyond what they can bear. Every space your family occupies is being marked, not by you, by the blood of the Lamb. And what is marked by that blood cannot be touched by the plots that were drafted in the dark. C.S. Lewis once wrote about the strange way that ordinary people are not ordinary at all, that every human being you encounter is either becoming an unimaginable glory or an unspeakable tragedy, and that the choices being made in the small moments of daily life are shaping eternal outcomes that the natural eye cannot yet see. He understood that families are not collections of personalities. Families are battlegrounds and altars at the same time. The kitchen table where you eat is also a place where covenants are renewed. The car ride to school is also a journey where prayers are being offered. The phone call to a sibling is also an opportunity for words to either build or break. And tonight the Father is sanctifying the ordinary moments of your household. Every small interaction in the coming weeks is being prepared to carry a weight of healing that you will not even notice while it is happening. But you will look back 6 months from now and realize the entire atmosphere of your home changed without a single dramatic event. This is your activation, beloved. The Lord is asking you to stand in the gap for your household tonight. Not with anxiety, not with frantic prayer, with authority. There is a quiet authority that belongs to a child of God who finally understands that they are not begging heaven to do something. They are agreeing with what heaven has already decided. Stand in your home tonight, even if only in your imagination as you sit where you are and walk through it room by room. Speak peace over the doorways, speak protection over the windows, speak life over the beds where your loved ones sleep, speak provision over the place where the bills are paid. You do not need a special prayer. You only need a settled heart. The words that come out of a settled heart shake atmospheres that the words of an anxious heart cannot move. There is also a posture the Father is calling you into in this season. It is the posture of wise silence in the natural realm and bold declaration in the spirit realm. You do not have to tell every family member what you have discerned. You do not have to confront the relative you suspect of being used. You do not have to explain to your spouse why you are praying differently. The Lord is not asking you to make announcements. He is asking you to make appointments with Him in private. The work He is doing in your family is largely going to be done without your visible effort. The visible effort He wants is the quiet, daily, consistent posture of a heart that refuses to give the enemy back the ground that has just been recovered. And here is something you need to understand about the cancellation of a plot. When God cancels something, he does not just stop the harm, he repurposes the territory. The very places where the enemy had built strongholds become the places where God now builds testimonies. The very relative who was being used becomes a story of restoration. The very pattern that was destroying generations becomes the pattern that is now healing them. God does not waste battlefields, he converts them. The land your bloodline was bleeding on is the same land your bloodline will soon be celebrating on. The room in your family that has carried the most pain is being prepared to carry the most worship. Some of you have been afraid to hope for your family because every time you have hoped before, something has gone wrong soon after. You learn to expect the disappointment. You learn to keep your expectations low so the fall would not hurt as much. But God is asking you to risk hope one more time. Not the shallow hope that pretends nothing is wrong, the deep hope that knows everything is wrong and still trusts that the Father is good. That kind of hope is not naive. That kind of hope is mature. That kind of hope has wept and still chosen to believe. And that kind of hope is the soil in which heaven plants the longest-lasting harvests. The plot against your family has been cancelled. Say it again in your own voice as you listen. The plot against my family has been cancelled. The lie that this is just how our family is has been cancelled. The pattern of pain repeating itself for another generation has been cancelled. The fear that you would lose another loved one to the same trap that took the last one has been cancelled. The whisper that your children will inherit the wounds you tried to carry quietly has been cancelled. The grip of an addiction or a sickness or a sorrow that has hovered over your bloodline like a shadow has been cancelled, not weakened, not negotiated, cancelled. And here is what is being installed in the empty space. A new pattern, a new agreement, a new sound coming from the rooms of your family, conversations that bless instead of bruise, phone calls that heal instead of harm, family gatherings that feel different in ways no one can quite describe, children who walk into their futures without dragging suitcases of inherited fear, siblings who reconcile in ways that surprise even them, parents who soften, adult children who return, estranged voices that finally pick up the phone for the right reason. The first signs may be small. Do not despise the smallness. The kingdom always begins with mustard seeds. The cancellation begins with a single softened heart. From that single softening, the whole house begins to breathe differently. In one word, write in the comments how you want God to transform the atmosphere of your home in this season. Peaceful, holy, restored, healed, whole, loving. Just one word. Let it be the banner you raise over your household tonight. And if this word has found you the way I believe it has, share it with one family member who has been carrying weights they cannot name. Because the deliverance that has just been authorized for your bloodline is not meant to stay with one person. It travels. It spreads. It moves through every member who agrees with it, and it strengthens with every voice that joins the agreement. You are loved. You are chosen. Your family is covered. Your household is marked. Your bloodline is being rewritten. The plot has been cancelled. The mask has been pulled off the schemes that operated in the shadows. The legal ground of the enemy has been swept clean. The covenant of the Father has been re-established over your name and over the names of those you love. Sleep tonight under a different sky than the one that has covered your family for years. The story is changing. The generations that follow you will read what is happening in this season the way you read the stories of Esther and Jacob, and they will say, "This is where the Lord moved for our family. This is the night the Father stood up. This is when the plot was cancelled and the inheritance was secured. Go in peace, chosen one, and rest. The one who never sleeps is awake over your household, and he is not going to look away.